everyone, and welcome to another Idea Alliance Gamut Livestream, where Kelsey Fields and I talk to business leaders and technical experts about embracing change and transforming the way that you work. Today, we have Christine Gallagher with us from X-Rite. Christine, how are you doing?
Great. It's a good day.
Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for the invite.
Kelsey, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Pretty early morning. How about you?
I'm doing great. I am really excited about the design summit going on right now for My Private Brand. That continues later today. Christine and I actually spoke yesterday at the My Private Brand Design Summit about print quality and color management. So today we're going to pick up some of that conversation and share some insight with the audience here on LinkedIn.
I'm excited to hear your guys' presentation.
Yeah. So anybody who's tuning in live, feel free to ask any questions that you have using the comments. Please feel free to say hello. Tell us where you're calling in from as well. We're really glad to have you here. Christine, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work that you do at X-Rite?
Sure. Christine Gallagher. I have been in the printing/brand industry for over 20 years and joined X-Rite this past year. And I actually manage the brand programs for them. So, what does that mean? That means color management for brands. So instead of just working with converters, it's really helping brands engage in a full stream color management process.
Okay, great. So today we're talking about working with private brands. We learned a lot yesterday at the Design Summit. They actually revealed the Vertex Awards, which are recognizing the best in private brand design. It was really cool to hear stories about how the designs were brought to life. So Christine, what's been the highlight of the summit for you so far?
I think it was really great to see the private brands embracing their brands. Years ago, it was always, private brands. And I think it was amazing. Christopher did a great job. It was over 500 people registered. The awards were certainly great. There was over 640 entries. I mean, imagine that in private label packaging, over 640 entries. That's crazy. And it's just really great to see. It's great to see them embracing and, living through their own brands.
Yeah, about 500 people have attended this conference so far from around the world, representing, all aspects of the private label supply chain. And they're there to get insights on what's working for design, where is the industry going. And, our role in that was to talk about, best practices and ideas for managing their print quality and brand colors better on a global scale. Seeing a poorly printed package on shelf is a surprise nobody wants to have. And brand owners and designers really, don't sleep at night worrying about that. So, Christine, from your perspective, what important message about print quality and color management do you think resonated most with the private brand owners at the summit?
I think in general, first it's like, you get that call from the VP who's somewhere in the world seeing your package or some store and saying, hey, like, what is this? And it's just a crazy thing. But, I think what they got out of it yesterday was it doesn't have to be that way. There are so many tools of the trade that have been around for years, but quite honestly, the pandemic has really put everybody in a space of thinking, how can I manage virtually? How can I manage with digital tools? And really, we've gotten a lot of brands and private brands to embrace that. So, I hope that that's what they got out of it, is that there is a path to success, and it doesn't require so much work that it's the only thing you can do in your job.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Private brands really do have a complex supply chain to manage. They've got thousands of products that are produced all around the world. A question came up about scalability. What's important for a solution to be scalable to, cover all the types of print processes, all the types of products, wherever they're printed in the world. Private brands also control the retail environment, the print signage, the flyers. There's all sorts of different consumer touch points, and the brand experience has to be consistent across that. So from your perspective, Christine, what what advice would you give in terms of finding something scalable to help you manage that?
So I think first it's about a workflow, right? It's about having the right color workflow and the knowledge around that workflow. Second is, having a full ecosystem that you can use throughout your supply chain, no matter where it lives. And then, that third component is really, it starts with design. So it starts with, at the very beginning, what are you communicating? What exactly are you communicating about the package and what you want it to look like? What are your colors? And digitally representing all of that. So instead of, and I said this yesterday in the call, instead of saying strawberry red, or so many people have seen the video luscious pink, right? Where there's the designer is on press and the pressman's going crazy because she's saying, I want it to be more luscious. And, what does that mean? That doesn't resonate with most people. So really defining those colors for print up front and doing it in a way that there is little for interpretation. It is this spectral data. It is this digital footprint. And that's what you're going with, period.
Mm-hmm. What role do standards play in that process?
They definitely play a role, and you have to have your tolerances on where you're going to go, right? How far you're going to manage out in and out of those colors in the standards. But building those standards again, creating that digital footprint, you should be able to get really close and stay within tolerance, no matter what you're printing. And again, yesterday I explained when you're scoring print. When you're scoring one color, you can easily read something with a spectrophotometer or an exact and say, okay, so yes, I got 100 because it's a singular color. When you're putting all those colors together, it's important that you have the right algorithm that says all of these inks laid on top of each other have created the right scenario for my package and what I was looking for.
Great points. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in live here. We've got people from New York, from India, Italy, Madrid, Vietnam, the Netherlands. We really appreciate you tuning in. Any questions so far from the audience? We'd be happy to take them live. Kelsey, on your side, over to you.
Yeah. So when people think about standardization, I feel like the first things that come to mind are time and money, things that are saved. But there are also some sustainability benefits with that. And with sustainability being on the forefront of so many brands' minds lately, how can standardization help in that scenario?
Yeah, so I think, when somebody gets into a color management program, the first thing they're thinking is, I really just need my color to be consistent. The second thing they're thinking is there's got to be some cost savings in doing this, right? But cost savings and sustainability savings actually go hand in hand. And so what do I mean by that? It means really that you're taking waste out. So yes, there is financial savings in that, but there is waste management as well. So you're limiting the number of proofs and paper waste. When you're working with your supply chain and you're working with your printers, their make readies should be significantly less because you've communicated to them digitally with spectral data to say, this is the targets we're meeting. There really is no interpretation to that, right? So make readies are much faster. You're not wasting rolls and rolls of material to get to that, as well as ink, right? So you're kind of honing in on what that ink is. You're also limiting transportation costs from those people who would be traveling to press runs and, using fossil fuels, and then those who are shipping press proofs back and forth, from, again, we're talking about a supply chain that's very complex, producing in China, producing in Indonesia, producing in Europe, producing in America, sending those proofs all around the world is time, money, and sustainability savings in not having that waste in the system.
Very cool.
Certainly a lot of improvements that could be made, and we're all seeking, continual improvement. We have a program called Brand Q. That's a really great way for people to learn online about color management fundamentals, about G7, about communication with the print and packaging supply chain. And communication can be really challenging. Christine, from your perspective, how does a print quality program help transform the way that a brand works with its print and packaging supply chain?
Yeah. So, again, it's coming back to the same thing, right? So a brand will choose a color and it's their color, right? Most designers are walking around the world looking at everything and really getting their inspiration from the things they see in everyday life, right? And they choose a color. And then they have to translate that color to everybody else. And, often what happens in that is it's the game of telephone. Like I saw this lovely blue in the sky yesterday, and someone else is looking at the sky and saying, well, I don't really like that blue. And maybe it's a little bit darker, maybe it's a little bit lighter. And then it just kind of gets out of control from there, right? So, again, I think when you're working with supply chain, the more you can hone in on specifics and really provide them with data that's useful, the better their chances are of being successful and right the first time, right? The converters are not out there to say, I want my make ready to take 2 days and I want to be sending proofs back and forth and not get approval. They as well want it right the first time. They want to be able to get on press, get the inks running and say, yep, we hit the target because we know we've been given this spectral data. We know that this is the color that we're looking to hit, and we've hit it. And we also are, using a scoring system where we're scanning that data in and saying we are within the tolerances that the brands are expecting. And I think that's really what it is, Mike. It's about communication, right? So the first thing you need to do is define exactly what it is you're looking for and be specific about it. Then you need to communicate in similar language, right? You can't say strawberry red because strawberry red is a totally different thing to everyone, right? So you need to be communicating in consistent language across the board that somebody can say, yep, I got it. I know what it is. And then you deploy it. And when you deploy it, you're successful.
Oh, awesome. One of the things we talked about at the design summit, we were talking with a bunch of designers. How does a print quality program help a designer work?
So I think it's two things, right? The designers, again, they walk through life and they're all of our inspiration, right? They create these great products and they really are responsible for bringing products to life for us on shelf and, now digitally and e-commerce. And, there's so many different ways that we interact with the brands now. So I think, first again, is we're giving them the opportunity to say, I love the color of the sky today. What is that color? And being able to really communicate without saying, I love the color of the sky today, being able to say, here's the color of the sky today. Here's the data behind the color of the sky today. And this is the color that I'm looking for. And I think in addition to that, as they're then going through the process, they can be confident that it's going to follow through. So they've picked a color, they've created a design, it's going now to pre-media or wherever the production house is to do production art. That color is not going to drift. It's then going to print for make ready. Again, it's not going to drift. And then when it prints, they're getting that score to say, I absolutely met what it was. And what does that mean to the consumer? It means quality. I mean, at the end of the day, the last thing you want is a consumer is going to put a product down if it doesn't look right. So if it's a Coke red or a store brand color and saying, that just the, Target red, it just doesn't look right. It looks, and somebody's going to naturally think, is it old? Is it fake? Is it wrong? And put it back on shelf. And you don't want that. So, what you're looking for and what the consumers are looking for is the quality they're expecting from that product. And it starts with the packaging.
Mm-hmm. Color is so critical. And you may only get one chance when that consumer is making a choice.
That's right.
So hitting that every time is super important. I love how standards and technology are coming together to help actually make it easier for great designs to be realized. That is the trick, to get the design vision to be executed and ultimately in front of the consumer. What role does education play in learning how to work within the graphic art supply chain?
It's huge. And I think, we've seen as we start using digital tools. So, everybody knows the Pantone book, right? Everybody walks around and have the Pantone book. They fan it out and say, look at all these cool colors. It's amazing. And the books are amazing. And they still have a place in the world in the sense of it's something to touch and feel and look at, right? But I think as we've gone forward, education is critical because you need to understand, how do I translate that? How do I translate that into something that I can communicate consistently across the board? And what I mean by that is, people will say, well, the books are consistent. If I'm saying 185 red, it should be the same. But was the book from this year? Was the book from the same batch run? Was the book left in the light somewhere? Did the book get wet? So there are so many variables there where when you're actually then taking that data and looking at the spectral digital view of that, but there's a lot of education in that, right? There's education in how do you get there? How do you communicate? How do you build your tolerances in what that is? And, how do you then, the biggest part of that is how do you then communicate that out to everybody to make sure that there's consistent language and showing your business partners along the way, not just your supply chain, but even people internally, that keeping the communication consistent is critical, and here's why. And those are the things in education that I think most people just don't inherently know, because even though the tools have been here for a long time, as I've said before, they haven't been widely used, and now they're getting used, right?
Mm-hmm. Christine, what do you like most about the graphic arts industry? And thinking a little bit ahead, what advice do you have to somebody who's just getting started in the industry?
Yeah. So, graphic arts takes many forms, right? So Kelsey works in the communication of graphic arts, right? Some people work in graphic arts design. Some people are just artists and photographers. I mean, there's so many spaces. For me, it's coming from the consumer products packaging side of the business, right? And my kids they refuse to come to the grocery store with me because it takes me forever to get through the store. I just, I'm going in to get one thing and I see something out of the corner of my eye and I have to go look at it. And I legit have so many products in my house that are unopened and I've never used just because I really liked the package. So, from that standpoint, that's what it is for me. It's the excitement of the communication of that, right? So of being able to communicate and get somebody to buy into a product based on the visual experience that you're having with it and saying, God, it just touches me. And I have to go touch it. I have to try it. I have to, and how do you do those things? So I think it's just, it's an amazing industry and it's always changing. And I think people look at consumer products specifically, fast moving consumer goods and kind of like, well, is it, the sexy part of the business? But it's always evolving. And I'm always amazed at the cool things that people come up with, the cool packaging that they come up with, the way to utilize colors and metallics and change all of that. And I see Amy Beth actually talked about the Pantone Colors and the card. And what she's actually talking about, because I have one on my desk, is right here. So we can't see it because my green screen is on the background here. But it's a Pantone card. And ultimately what you do is you put the card over a color and scan it with your phone on the QR code, and it will actually pick out the Pantone color for you. And interesting enough story that a friend of mine works in fabrics. So he works in interior design and was looking for something. He's like, I need some Pantone books. And I was like, oh, have you tried the card? And he's like, it's literally saved my life because I'm out with customers now and they say, this is the color I want. I put my card down and I can immediately show them the colors on my phone. So it's definitely cool. And it's a great way, again, to communicate for designers to be able to say that's the color I want. What is it? I don't know what it is. How do I match it?
So cool. So any advice for people getting started?
I think just so I have college age daughters, right? And I keep saying to them, just have an open mind. And it's the same thing with graphics for anybody, right? Have an open mind. Kelsey, before we started, talked about the fact she thought she was going to go into graphic arts and ended up in graphics communications because it was just something that kind of touched her heart. So, people going into it, I say, just keep an open mind, because there are so many different things you can do in graphic arts. And I literally cannot even draw a stick figure. And I've been in the graphic arts business my entire life. So, it's have an open mind. And just because you might not feel like you're creative doesn't mean that you can't participate in a really cool industry. Just have an open mind and really, if you can, journey through all the spaces within graphic arts. Don't just say, this is what I want to do. Try everything out, because you might decide you like something totally different. I wanted to be a lawyer when I went to college. And yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun doing what you're doing now. How can somebody get a hold of you if they've got any questions or find out more information about what you work on?
Sure. You can always find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on the X-Rite Pantone website as well. LinkedIn's probably the best way. You can message me on LinkedIn. I'm on there pretty actively and will return any messages. And, I'm happy to hear from anybody, and any help I can provide, I'm here.
Thanks so much, Christine. So anybody who's listening today, if you have an interest in learning more about how to communicate color and are interested in the Brand Q program, Amy actually just dropped into the comments here a promo code that you could use to save 20% on that education. It's a quick online class you could take at any time. And it's really valuable information that'll help you understand the entire print and packaging supply chain and how you can communicate and get great results through it. We also have a G7 expert training coming up with Ron Ellis in May, and another one in Spanish with Aziel de la Cruz. You can contact us for more information on that and learn how to execute consistent color across any print process. So thank you so much, Christine, for your time today. I look forward to seeing you at the Design Summit again online.
Yep.
Kelsey, so much.
Yeah. Thank you. It was so nice to talk to you today, Christine.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike and Kelsey. It was great. Have a wonderful day, and everyone have a nice weekend.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.